Bibles, if you've got it, open up your Bibles to 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6 is how we're finishing up our In God We Trust series. 1 Timothy is in the New Testament. It's towards the end of the entire Bible. And so 1 Timothy is actually a letter written from Paul. So the name is confusing because you think Timothy wrote it. Paul wrote it, and it's a letter to Timothy. So there's a little context. Open up to 1 Timothy 6, and I'm going to read verse 17. Verse 17 says this. It says, "Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment." So stop right there. So Paul starts off saying there's two types of people. Right? There's person A who puts their trust in their riches, and there's person B who puts their trust in God. You guys want to do a simple test to see kind of which category sometimes we fall in? I want to ask you a question. Life throws you a curveball. Let's say you lose your job, or you're getting evicted. For some reason, something comes completely unexpected. Person A, their confidence is going to come by their own hands. They're going to say things like, well, it's okay because I've saved up about 2 years of money. And so even if I'm losing this job, I'm going to be able to make it because I have enough savings. Person A is going to say, hey, I lost my job, but it's okay. I have such a great network of people, and because of my experience and my history, I'm going to bounce back up on my feet. See, person A's confidence, if life throws them a curveball, it comes from something they have created. Whether it's contacts, network, a bank account, they go, even if something crazy, like I know we're going to be fine, because I've been planning for this day really well. And I'm not saying by any means that a savings account is bad, or that networking or contacts is bad. But if this entire series is about getting back to a place where our trust is in God, I would primarily want our response in this church to say, if life throws a curveball, why is the future going to be bright? Because I have a Father who will not let me down. Yes, I might have contacts, and I might have a savings account, and I might have a lot of experience, but you primarily asking why I'm not worried about the future? And my first default response is because I got a Father who feeds the birds, and I got a Father who clothes the lilies, and if He does that for them, then I know I'm going to be okay. Do you guys see the difference between person A and person B? Give me a head nod or a hand. Yes? And Paul says, look, tell those who are trusting in their own riches, tell those who are trusting in things they created, not to trust them, but instead to put their trust in God. That's what this entire series has been about. It's about tearing down the way we see finances and building it back up through a biblical perspective. And Paul challenges us. He says, which person are you? Does the future look bright because of what you've created with your hands, or does the future look bright because you have a loving Father in heaven who knows the hairs on your head? Look what Paul goes on to say here. Check this out. Right? Look at verse 18. Let's go one more. He says, tell them to use their money to do good. Stop right there. If there's one thing you guys walk away from tonight, one point that gets stuck in your head, the last building block to the structure we have been building is this. It's that money, in its proper view, is simply a tool for building God's kingdom. If I say, what is money? From a biblical perspective, I want all of us collectively to say it's a tool that God has allowed me to have in my possession to build His kingdom. This is the final building block to this entire series, is that money is just a tool. I want you guys to think of it like a hammer. Okay, a hammer is a tool that's used for building. Money is simply a tool that is used to build God's kingdom. Are you guys noticing that it seems like apartments are springing up everywhere in Tustin and Irvine? Right? Like, I think it was 3 years ago, we planted Prodigal in Irvine. Some of the statistics were that they're building 10,000 new homes. Did you guys know this? 10,000 new homes, and it was supposed to bring in 40,000 new people. And it seems like every other day you look and there's new apartments. Like they're tearing down old retail shops, they're tearing down old places, and they're replacing it with apartments. Am I the only one who notices this? A little bit? Yeah. I get a little paranoid, right? Traffic sucks now. Is anybody worried about what's going to happen? That's why I go when it's dark in my mind. I go, get out of here! It's already bad enough. I don't see you building the freeways and you're building apartments. It's simple math. Sorry, I digress. We see that they're building, right? They're building everywhere. They're building. Play out a hypothetical scenario for me, will you? The Irvine Company owns the land, and they contract out to some general contractor. And they say, hey, can you build me some apartments? Like, can you build me this new housing community? I own the land, and I'm commissioning you, general contractor, to build something on my land. And so what does the general contractor say? He says, of course. He has all the tools, and Irvine Company supplies him with the tools. He's like, hey, you can use my crane, you can use my truck, like I will give you everything you need. It's your job to build the apartment complex that I want. General contractor says, no problem, I got this. 6 months later, Irvine Company checks in on the project and how my apartment's doing. And instead of actually seeing something built, he sees that the general contractor has simply been accumulating more and more tools. He's got like sheds full. So he's got his modular on the property that's got a bunch of hammers. And then he's got another modular that's all about screws. And he has another thing that's about saws. And Irvine Company's scratching his head like, what are you doing? I commissioned you to build something, to make something, to create according to my plans. And you have chosen to accumulate tools. You get fired right away, right? You can agree? And it's crazy, and I know it's not super realistic, but go with me for a second. You guys know that God has commissioned us to build His kingdom here? You guys know that, right? That the goal of life isn't to just receive Jesus in your heart and then just wait until you die and go meet Him someday. That's not the purpose of Christianity. Right? Jesus comes into our heart, and then now God says, now go establish my kingdom. Go spread out the kingdom of God, make and create. And God gives us plenty of tools, right? We have our personalities, we have our spiritual gifts, we have our backgrounds, our stories, our passion. And one of the tools that God has given us to build His kingdom is what? Money. Yet far too often, instead of actually using it as a tool, we just pursue accumulating it. The Bible says that money is a means to an end. And we have made it the end. Paul said, no, you should use your money to do something good. And we go, thanks, but I actually just want a lot of it. I want a shed full of hammers. There's a parable that Jesus says, it's called the parable of the rich fool. And kind of foreshadowing what Jesus thinks about this guy. There's this guy, and he has a great harvest, right? Phenomenal harvest, and it reaps in so much crop. And so the guy goes, what do I do with all this wealth? What do I do with all this crop? Hey, I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my barn, and I'll make a bigger one. And so he tears down his barn, and he keeps making bigger barns to store all his wealth. And guess what happens? He dies, and Jesus says, you're a fool. Because instead of actually using that wealth to do some good, instead of actually viewing it in its proper context as a method of building something, you chose to hoard and accumulate. And you are a fool. I know that doesn't sound like any of us in here. It sounds like anybody else, right? We need to be viewing money in its proper context. And that is simply a tool for building God's kingdom. Look at this very next verse. Let's finish out this verse, shall we? Verse 18, it says, let's read it one more time because there's an ending. It says, tell them to use their money to do good. So they should be rich in good works and generous to those in need. Always being ready to share with others. So I love this. Paul's saying, look, instead of chasing after the accumulation of money, pursue being rich in good works. Like, he's saying, hey, if there's anything that you're going to want to strive for building something. Like, get competitive. Get fired up. Have a goal. Not for the accumulation of how much can I have, but how much good can I do with what God has given me. Do you guys see the difference? One is pursuing riches. Paul goes, no. Pursue being rich in good deeds. Pursue making something special from what I gave you. And be like a lifeguard. Right? He's got a whole entire shed full of life preservers. Instead of using them to save lives, he continues to justify himself. Well, no, this isn't ready. No, this isn't a life-saving moment. There's probably something else down the road. This seems pretty small, so I'm going to keep this. You'd say, man, a life preserver is a tool to save lives. You're viewing it incorrectly. Right? Sometimes we've seen, it's really sad. There'll be an earthquake in Haiti, or there'll be a tsunami in some part of the country, and then these humanitarian relief organizations pop up, and they get millions of dollars of food donated to them. And we would rip these organizations if they weren't distributing food. Right? We would be crushing them. We'd say, why are you just keeping the food? You're supposed to be giving out the food. Do you guys see the difference? Right? The goal of these organizations isn't how much food can I accumulate. They go, no, this is just a tool to change the world. And yet we, in 2018, and even us within the church, we lost that. We have made it about who can have the biggest barn, who can have the biggest bank account. I want to create a situation for myself where I can trust in my own riches. I don't know about you guys, right? My draw to money isn't to have nice things. My draw to money is always security. That's my kryptonite. And I want a lot of money so that if heaven forbid something happens to me or Aaron, I'm going to be okay. Do you know what that also translates out to? I want to be in a position where I don't need God to interact or intervene. I want to have so much wealth that if something bad happens, I can say, God, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I'm actually good. I got this covered. And it all stems back to an incorrect view of what money is. I'm going to repeat this thing to the sake of hearing it. It's just a tool. And I want to encourage you guys, right? Because if you guys know what we talked about so far, we talked about what are some of the ways that we're good managers of God's money, right? And we said that one of the ways we do this is by bringing a first and 10 offering. Do you guys remember this first and 10 concept? Right? We don't give God our leftovers. We give Him our first, right? He introduces this concept of the tithe. And so we step into this as giving God a worthy offering. Do you guys know that when you do that, you're contributing to the kingdom of God because you're helping fund Prodigal, and therefore the mission of making disciples. Like, this isn't, raise your hand if Prodigal has an impact on your life. Now, every single one of you who then gives an offering to Prodigal, you've contributed to that. That's what I need you guys to see. Is that without you guys contributing, this doesn't exist. And that blessing that hopefully some of you guys experience doesn't happen. So when you guys do give an offering, you go, man, how am I expanding the kingdom? How am I building something greater? Well, you are, because you're helping fund the mission of Prodigal, and therefore helping bless and touch lives. I want to end with one story. Throw up my graphic, Brian. How many of you guys know what this is? Any guys, history buffs? History buffs, what is this? It's Confederate currency. So check this out, a Civil War, right? North versus South. I didn't know this, but the South printed their own currency. See, they were so confident that they were going to win the war, and they were going to be the new United States, or whatever it was going to be. They said, hey, we don't need you, North. We're going to make our own money. And so they printed Confederate dollars, and it was essentially Confederate currency. But check this out. Ready? As the war began to tilt in the North's favor, what do you guys think happened to the currency? Devalued. And so every time the North would win a battle, the Confederate dollar just got a little bit weaker. And then the North would win another battle, and the Confederate dollar would get even weaker. Now, what do you guys think the smart Confederates did? They exchanged it. So they could see the writing on the wall. They could see the future. And they said, look, even if I got to give 2 Confederate dollars to get 1 North dollar back, like that's better. And so the smart Southerners exchanged their Confederate currency for the Northern currency because they understood the writing on the wall. And others didn't. And there was a point that the Confederate dollar was so weak that you needed 50,000 Confederate dollars to buy a t-shirt. It's a joke. It was not existent. And do you know there were people to their dying day who held on to these things, thinking that it was going to do them good? I'm not talking like for collector's sake. I'm talking straight up, they just going to tell themselves, this is going to be worth something someday, so I am not exchanging. It's foolish. Because they should have recognized the writing on the wall and got out while it still had some value. Check this out, you guys. We're going to live for eternity, right? I know we don't fully grasp that as humans, our brains can't compute that, but there's more to life than just our however many years on earth, correct? We don't get to take our money with us, do we? It's going to be worthless someday. And so what the smart people do, who understand the biblical perspective of God, is they say, I can't take this with me, so I might as well put it to something that's everlasting. I'm going to exchange my dollars for riches in heaven. Because I know that this is only temporary, where eternal riches last forever. My heart and hope for this family is we see our dollars and we see it in its proper context. Yeah, it's a tool. But I can't take it with me. So I might as well put it to use now. I might as well do something with it. I might as well exchange it for something that will have infinite value in the future. Or we can be like the rich fool that Jesus talked about and die with a bunch of wealth and hold on to it like the Southern Confederates. So what did it do to us? I want to read one last verse before we end here. I love what Paul has to say in verse 19. He says, by doing this, they will be storing up their treasure as a good foundation for the future so that they may experience true life. I really like this because Paul says, look, when you put your trust in God, you experience true life. See, I started this series thinking that money was such an unspiritual concept. So I've never preached on it in 4 years. I avoided it because it felt so secular. I'd rather talk about the cross, I'd rather talk about grace, I'd rather talk about forgiveness and justice and loving others. And I continue to categorize money as unspiritual, doesn't really have much effect. And yet Paul says it's just the opposite. He says that you want to know what's a connection between walking in true life? It's a correct view of money. It's maybe why Jesus talked about it so much. More than faith, hope, and heaven combined, Jesus talks about money. Why? Because he knows when it's viewed in its proper context as a tool, when we are exchanging it for eternal riches in heaven, then and only then do we experience true life. So we've spent 5 weeks talking about money. How God is the owner, we're just the manager. That it's our role and responsibility to bring him a worthy offering. That it's our job to be sharing with one another, like demonstrating that radical generosity that we see in Acts. That we're supposed to be caring for the widows and orphans and building something eternal. Then, and maybe then, like Paul says, will we experience true life? Then, and maybe then, will we see the gospel explode like it did in the early church? I want to finish with a couple things. As we talk about finances, I really want to be transparent with you guys. We're a family. We're a small church. I want you guys to know the ins and outs, and I don't want anyone to feel in the dark. Because the truth is that there's a lot of churches where there's mishandling of money. There's no point in denying that. I'd rather just talk about it. And so we want to talk about a little bit of where prodigal's money goes. What are the checks and balances that are in place? And how can we move forward together? I want to show you some statistics. Brian, you want to throw up the PowerPoint? This is 2017, right? So there's 85 people, roughly, who call prodigal home. Now, we get about 40 or 50 on a Sunday. That's because the average person only comes to church twice a month. It's just stats. It just is. We got 85 members here. We average about 50 on a Sunday. 18 people in 2017 gave over $3,000. And 55% of prodigal members gave less than $1,000. I just wanted, we're a family, just to talk numbers. The average millennial spends $1,800 a year on coffee. It's $5 a day, about 3 or 4 times a week, 52 weeks a year. I really hope these numbers change. Not because I want to raise, not because I want to go purchase some multi-million-dollar building, but I want us to experience true life. And we said earlier that God rewards the good managers, and He strips the bad managers of what is theirs. And I wanted us to be transparent, because I want us to celebrate a year from now when we see that number go up. Check out, Brian, go with the next stat. You know, the top 5 people in this church give over half of the total income. So let me tell you why you might go, well, Matt, what's the correlation to that? Those 5 people are millionaires. So if we had 5 millionaires, it would make sense. Well, of course, Matt, they make significantly more than everybody else, so it shouldn't take many of them. The truth is that's not the case. It's those who are faithful to a first and 10 offering. We had very few people in 2017 who are committed to a first and 10 regular tithe. And so that's why it only takes about 5 people to make up over half of the total income that's brought in. That's not a sign of a family. Because family, everybody contributes and everybody brings. And it's not about dollar amounts. Like that little widow who dropped in a penny gave more than everybody else combined. It has nothing to do with the dollar amount. It has to do with the commitment to this body. And so this is encouraging. Like, wow, I love the 5 people who are blessing this church so much. They are allowing us to function. My salary is paid for. That's how this works. But I want that number to change. I want it much more spread out. I want us to look at each other and say every single person is contributing to the mission of this church, to building something that lasts forever. Now, if you want to know where your dollar goes, we're going to do our best to break it down. I'm going to try. It's a little simplified here, but I'm going to do my best. So if you give $1 to prodigal, 66% goes to salaries, 25% of your dollar goes to rent, 5% goes to shepherding. That's like buying kids ministry supplies, that's like buying potluck events, that's like buying stuff that goes into the actual ministry, and about 4% goes to admin. Now those salaries, right? Then we know who the 4 paid people are. There's 4 of us that are paid. It's me, there's Stephen, there's Brian, it's not Noah, there's Brian and Bethany. So there's 4 of us, and I'm the only one that's technically full-time. The other 3 are part-time. So there's 4 people that get paid at Prodigal. Every single other person is volunteer, which is beautiful. Because there's so many of you guys each and every week who are carrying this burden. But there's 4 of us that get paid. Now again, if 66% seems high, everything needs to be viewed in proper context. So startup churches, usually the greatest percentage of their budget goes to salaries. And the typical startup in our stage is about 75% of your dollar goes to salaries. So we're actually under what would be a traditional church plan. Let's see. Go to the next slide. The next slide is actually one that I'm proud of and that if you actually look at our budget, I couldn't do it on a pie graph. We actually have what's called a 110% budget, which what that means is we go in the hole every year. Right? So if you equal your budget, and whatever you brought in, you spent, and you broke even. Right? Then there's what's called a surplus, which means you made money, there's a deficit. We, every year, we go in the hole. So we lose money. What we spend on salaries and rents, we don't bring in. Okay? But what's really cool, and why I'm proud of this stat, is we have never stopped giving. So prodigal giving is 10% no matter what. And it's that 10% that puts us in the hole every year. So for example, we just told you that we partnered with Open Doors Ministry, right? A nonprofit that works for the persecuted church globally. We just wrote them a check for $5,000 2 months ago. My friend, Tonka, who planted a church called Voice Church in Tustin, we supported that with a large check. Why? Because we are committed to giving. You guys remember how I said sometimes it feels like the tithe is what makes you go under? But it's really not. Because if you tithe first, then it's everything else that made you go under. We do the same thing for Prodigal Church. We don't go under because of our giving. And so therefore we will never stop giving. And we give and we go into deficit and we trust that God will provide, and it won't always be this way. We trust that maybe next year when we have this exact same conversation, we'll get to celebrate and say, we're not in the hole anymore. We're breaking even. Hey, maybe we're positive. But right now, I want to be transparent. We go under. But I want you to know that what we challenge you guys with, we hold ourselves accountable to, and we don't think twice about cutting our giving. I've had people say, why are you supporting a church plant, Matt, when you guys don't even break even? You should be the one asking for help. No. Kingdom of God doesn't work that way. We give because we know God will reward our faithfulness. I know it. I don't think twice. It's only a matter of time. Not that we're rich, but that we're not going to be going in negative. God will bless our faithfulness. There's one more stat I want to look at. 2 weeks ago, the very first time, we collected an emergency needs fund, right? So your emergency needs fund will never pay rent. That's not going to rent. That's not going to salaries. That's not going to music equipment. The emergency needs fund only goes to helping those in our community. Okay? And so for the first 2 weeks ago, we collected $300, which is pretty exciting. And so let me tell you what my hope and prayer is for that. I don't ever want that number to get too high, and I don't ever want to get that number too low. Let me explain. If it's too high, it means we're not giving it out. Right? If we have $10,000 in your emergency needs fund, you go, it's not supposed to be accumulated. It's supposed to be constantly given out to the needs of this community, to the bills, the hospital bills, the things that come up unexpectedly. We want to meet each other's needs. So if this is a giant number, we're not doing our job. But if it's too small, it means we're also not doing our job right because we're not contributing. So every single month, on the last Sunday of the month, we're going to collect an emergency needs offering. So that Sunday we'll have 2 offerings. The first one goes to general prodigal. The second one will only ever go to emergency needs. And my prayer is that that number will go up more than 300, but that it won't get to some crazy number. And so I want to tell you guys in the church, like, come to us. The goal is to give this out. So if you guys have needs, we want to meet the needs